Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello.
No countdown tonight. I forgot to click the button. I've
We're
saved
going
a
live.
couple of
Here we
those
are.
30-second countdown things, and I forgot to click the
Thank
button
you.
tonight. So, oh well. Welcome to Sisters of the Mystical Tarot. Our lovely sister Sharon will not be here tonight. She is still feeling pretty bad, feeling ill. So she emailed me this morning and said, I'm just not going to make it.
Yeah.
And I said, you just take care of you and don't worry about the rest.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about Aley. I haven't heard from her, but if I saw the thing right, she's doing a show right now. So I don't know. Maybe she's just recording one or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, you can put her
Hey,
on
you
too.
got us.
Both of us. Yeah, that's right. 3 for the price of 1.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right.
We're better than the Double Mint twins. Who remembers that one?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Double mint.
Two mints of 1.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I used to love those commercials.
Yeah.
Used to always feel me. It was like, how do they find all those people that look like each other? It's a massive casting call going out for twins everywhere.
Yes. Exactly.
It's a shame David and Gary weren't in on that one.
Uh-huh.
They could have done it. They would have been young enough at the time. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody.
Rod.
Being there. Who's here?
Sal Rods. Haven't seen Sally for eons.
Yeah.
Dr. Ann.
We got
Maureen
Tea Garden Chicken.
Yeah.
Sharon. I saw Gerald in here earlier.
Yes.
And Marby is here.
Yes.
And Laura. Yeah. Suzanne. Yep, there's Gerald. I thought I saw his mustache in there. And Mary and Teresa. And look, there's a dragonfly crystals. I
don't know.
Who let her in?
And a Froxy Roxy. And a Heart Center Tarot. Who let her in?
Oh, good Lord, not that woman. Not that
and
woman.
Anja and Linda. We're just going downhill, man. What can I say?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Anya, thank you, Anya.
Well, thank y'all for coming.
Jenny. Hey.
Yay.
Tropical
a whole bunch of Aley and
Barbara Nesper, Linda Ramsey. Oh my gosh. Karen Trout.
Sherry Layler.
Yes.
Hey,
Wayne Rich.
I haven't seen you in a while.
Sherry Layler.
And
Aley.
Yeah. Sherry Layler and I are literally one letter difference in our names. She's S-H-E and I'm S-H-A.
Oh.
Nice.
Sally says she melted there in Tucson. In case you all, I am melting here in Las Vegas. So
I'm melting down in the swamp where it's been like in the 98s, 97, 98 degrees, and the humidity has been pretty close to the same.
Wow.
And I'm wearing
humidity is like 80%, and higher.
Spots. Yeah, it's 59 degrees here.
Oh,
it's been basically at 59 all day.
I'm jealous.
Me too.
Listen,
there's like I talked to Dr. Ann this weekend, and she's got like 2 merino wool coats around her, and she's wrapped up like in an igloo, and she's freezing to death. I'm like, I keep forgetting it's winter time where you are.
There. Yeah.
And hi, Tropical Empress, and Karen and Teresa, and I think we hit everybody. If we missed your name, we apologize.
Absolutely.
We tried to catch everybody. Either me, Marina, or Val were hitting the names. So hi, Lisa. And
yes, Karen Trout. I'm up in Canada. And I mean, I knew that the weather was going to cool down and it was going to start to rain, because this happens every year. On Friday, the Calgary Stampede officially starts. And you can count that when the Calgary Stampede is on, we're going to have every evening, we're going to have thunder showers. That's just the way that the universe works. And they usually start about 15 minutes before the fireworks go off.
Oh,
yeah.
it's the Stampede like a rodeo, or what is
Yes,
this?
it's the greatest outdoor show on earth.
With the few sprinkles and whatever else shows up.
We have it. There's a daily rodeo. There's chuck wagon races. There's all kinds of things, and then there's a midway that is just full of all kinds of rides and food stands.
Ooh.
So, yeah,
is this in celebration of Canada Day? Although this is your Stampede, this is just
this is just
just for Calgary.
Just for
Linda
Calgary.
H says it's 100 degrees in Virginia.
Oh,
yeah. Severe thunderstorms in Indiana. Where Karen's at is 93. Look who popped in. Our sister Sharon.
Look at that.
Hey, Sharon.
Who's 75. Oh my goodness.
75. What are you bragging?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Isn't a stampede for stamp collectors, says Wayne Rich? No. You should actually Google Calgary Stampede and you'll see it's huge.
Yeah.
It's
huge. Similar to the ones that they usually do in Texas, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Used to be part of the rodeo crowd when I was in middle school. My grandfather had horses that we rode in the rodeo and did all that fun stuff. And
I like to go for the different food stands and yes, that I like to try that.
Yeah.
There's also they call the Big Four. There's an agricultural center where you can just all kinds with the pigs and the cows and the and then there's where they have all kinds of little oh no. Oh, sorry to hear that, Sharon.
You feel bad.
Well, who you been kissing, Sharon, that you get mono?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that a youngster disease?
Usually.
Oh my gosh.
Teenager disease, but all right.
But yeah, so it's the Stampede this year is on from Friday the 5th to Sunday the 14th. It's most businesses shut down around lunchtime. You don't get a whole lot of work done because everyone is having Stampede parties.
Of course.
And there's lots of businesses that will have the Stampede breakfast. So yeah, if you want to get fed, there's so many places in the city that are just doing the pancakes, flapjacks, whatever.
How did you guys in Calgary end up creating this Stampede? Was it like a very big cowboy town, or what was the
I think it was it was well over 100 years ago that it started, and it was just basically a rodeo because Alberta is very you could call it cowboyish. Like it's not unusual that to see people walk. Well, okay, Dallas, exactly.
I want to be a cowboy.
Dallas up north.
Okay.
So a lot of the same thing, and then it just kind of grew and grew and grew from being like the what do they call it, the four whatever, where it was agricultural. It went from that.
You bring your animals and you do the
and it went from there to the rodeo to
the biggest
like the 4-H the
4-H, that's the word
thing.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
That they do in school. High school, I had several friends that were in the 4-H club or whatever. They
Yeah.
raise their own cows and bulls and chickens
Yes.
and
Yeah.
whatnot. And several of them tried to talk me into doing it. I'm like, I don't think so.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I got horses to take care of. I don't have time to raise anything else.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
then my
And
grandparents got
Calgary is
divorced and the horses went away. So, after that, it was like,
Yeah.
And yeah, you're
we
right,
didn't even
Sharon.
have a cat.
Alberta is known as Texas North, yes, because we have a lot. I mean, the oil industry is huge here in Calgary.
Mm.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
Wayne's telling you not mono, get stereo.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, Maureen, it is. Calgary is a big city, but it still feels homey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It still
Yeah.
And
feels.
that's like the city I live in is the third largest city in the state.
Mhm.
But it still feels like a little hometown. It doesn't feel like a big city.
Mhm.
It's like you go over to New Orleans or you go up to Alexandria or Shreveport, they feel like big cities.
Mhm.
And we're bigger, I think, than a couple of those. I mean, New Orleans, I think, is the biggest. But it still feels like a little hometown here.
Mhm.
With just
Exactly.
as much backward thinking as you usually get in small towns.
But
And
I mean,
considering we're a university town, that's kind of really depressing to think about,
I have to say for Calgary, I mean, they must have had the Royal Canadian Mounties at some point in their history.
Yes,
But I have
ma'am.
to say, one of my favorite, okay, I'll tell it, guilty pleasure Hallmark shows, One Calls the Heart, and it has the Canadian Mountie
I know.
and Grant at this particular moment. And I
Yeah.
have to say, they look pretty sharp in their
They do. Yeah.
But
They
I mean,
do.
there are
Call
no
the Mounties for Val whenever she needs
no,
trouble.
I
Needs
mean,
help.
they don't really have Mounties anymore. Not big. Well, did they merge with police or something like that? I was
No.
reading Wikipedia
They-
and I was what?
Royal Canadian Mounted
Okay.
Police. They are
For real.
all right, let's say if I break the law inside Calgary, I'm going to get picked up by Calgary police.
Yeah.
If I'm outside of Calgary, outside of the city limits, I'm going to get picked up by the Mounties.
Oh, I think that's the place to do something wrong. Oh,
Look,
excuse me.
what am I doing?
I mean, yes, take me in.
Nobody goes
Yeah.
to jail for that anymore. So I mean, you got to think of something else.
I insist on a body search.
I insist on it.
Deep
Please.
cavity search while you're at it.
Oh no, that's
For your safety
Canadian
and
people
mine.
they're too nice to do cavity searches.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
unbecoming. It's ungentlemanly.
Yeah, and Sally, yes, I think it is a uniform thing because you know what, the I got to tell you that the one thing that I really liked about my ex-husband was he was military, he was Navy, and when he put
Something
on
about a man.
Oh,
and
but it was the uniform that did it for you. Oh, come on. Oh, yes. And I can't say that isn't true. Navy uniforms, the officers' uniforms are those, when they're,
what they call their ice cream
it's
suits.
fine
That's
looking.
what they call them, is their ice cream suits, because they look like the ice cream man.
They look very hot.
They do. Absolutely.
And I remember when my son was in the Navy. Now, of course, he wasn't an officer, so he wore a regular naval outfit. And I was like, well, who decides when everybody wears white and everybody wears blue? Because I've seen two different uniforms. It says it goes by the weather. It says, so from this month to this month, you're always in dress whites. And then the rest of the year, you're always in dress blues. Unless you live somewhere that's predominantly cold all year, then you stay in your dress blues because they're made from a thicker material.
Yeah.
And like when he lived in Hawaii, they always wore dress whites. They didn't go to the blues because it was too damn hot to wear those, you know. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I never knew that. Learn
Yes, and
something new every day.
yeah, ladies, the uniforms are something about uniforms.
It is. It's
You know,
to me,
that
I think the
red
best.
scourge of the Royal Canadian Mounted
Yes.
Police.
To me, I think that the sexiest uniform when it comes to our military branches, to me, is the dress uniform of the Marine.
Mhm.
There's just something about all of that braiding and everything that they've got. It's like
I
that
was
looks.
always
It's like
for
I wouldn't
some.
want to have to take care of it, but
Oh
'cause
no!
I used to listen to my son bitch about having to keep his dress whites white. Yes,
White.
I don't
White.
know. There was something about the Air
and
Force
breast.
uniforms, but my top uniform is Canadian Royal Mounted Police. It's the top uniform.
In fact, he said when he was in the Navy, he said there were always 2 or 3 dry cleaners in town that were certified by that Navy's fort or whatever. And that's where they would all take their uniforms to be cleaned and pressed, because if you did it yourself, it
had
better
the
look like
creases in the right place. It had to,
had to have, and the crease couldn't be just a maybe crease. It had to be like sharp enough to cut you with kind of crease. You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It had to be just so. Yeah. And I remember my ex, especially before a parade, when everything had to be whatever
shiny
and shining up his boots. Okay. And then making sure that nothing was going to get on them, putting them in the oven.
Yes.
So that not a speck of anything would get on, because if anything did, look out.
Oh yeah. You don't.
Yeah. And all the buckles and everything had to be shined to the max. No, no occlusions on the brass.
That's so sweet.
Thank you, Linda H.
That's wonderful, Linda. Thank you.
Yes.
That was very sweet.
And so it's Air Force has a fairly nice uniform too, but their uniforms just aren't quite. Now, if you're talking about just in their flight suits, okay, then they got hands down. Okay, I can go with that. But when they're in their dress blues, it's not nearly as
understated for you. It's not. That's why I like
the red
Canadian Mounted Royal Police. It's very regal and
your attention. But yet you go over into England and they're just too much. It's like, take the damn hats off. You don't need the hat. It's
my uncle was in the Air Force and he actually was stationed in England, but his uniform back there in the 40s had the waist cinched and it had the peplum that it came out. And he looked very smart and dashing in his uniform. It looked gorgeous. I have a picture of my aunt and uncle. And
uniforms used to be a lot more dashing looking and whatnot until I don't know, they started like kind of downgrading the uniforms to make them more generic, I guess.
What happened?
I know when my son was in the Navy, their working uniform was they had to wear blue slacks and a blue work shirt. That was their working uniform. And he'd been in a couple of years when they changed it to Army green. Everybody was now going to wear Army green, didn't matter what branch you were in. I'm like, well, who wants to wear that ugly thing? You didn't join the Army to wear. I hate that color green, just.
And Maureen D'Amico said, and she's ex-Navy. She used to shine her shoes with old cotton t-shirts. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
Robin Smith, remember Brasso? Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah, my brother was Army. My son was Navy. My husband was Navy. My uncle was Air Force. And so yeah, and I had one of my cousins was Marine. And I remember the first time I saw him in his full dress uniform, he'd come home for a special occasion and he was like all decked out. And I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, I got my attention. I was maybe like 6 or 7 at the time, but it got my attention. I was like,
There's something
like,
about
yeah.
a uniform, ladies.
I know.
It is. It is. Yeah.
We're suckers
Exactly.
for a uniform.
Absolutely.
It's
It's
something
that.
about that sharp, crisp look,
Yeah.
you know, where everything just seems to be in place.
And you know, they seem so dependable. And
That's it.
there's something about the
Yes.
ambiance of what you feel.
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Where's the uniform?
And the expressions they wear when they're in that
Yeah.
uniform.
Right.
You
The
know.
seriousness and
Yeah.
all of
There,
that.
and that's exactly what it is, Val. And you read my mind because I was thinking, there's the uniform just implies trust,
It
respect.
does.
Like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I could thank you. My hero is here. You've come to
Yes,
save
it's
me.
like
Yep.
that. Exactly
Yep.
right.
It's our
Yeah.
equivalent today of the knight in shining armor.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And that's, I don't know if that's a genetic thing, if it's
I think we're
a
hardwired.
hormonal thing. I
Yes.
think we're just hardwired for that knight in
I think
shining
we
armor
are.
to show up. I
There's
mean,
something-
as independent and whatnot as we can be,
Yes.
there's still that knight in shining armor, and you're like, oh, yeah, I want him to come save
a
me.
man who shows up
Um,
and looks dependable, that you can count on him for anything, and he'll
Exactly.
show up and be honest and everything. I mean,
Yeah.
that
You know
that's
why?
and that's it.
Yeah. Hi, V. It's one of the reasons that, a lot of men who are not very, very nice, who do tend to kind of go in and be a little nasty to women,
yeah,
they will impersonate firefighters and
yes,
police officers
correct.
because we generally, you see a police officer, it's, oh, okay, he's safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Jamie.
Salrod
Stand up
Salrod
straighter
says,
in the uniform. Even
it's not genetic. I have no uniform fetish.
It's not genetic. She doesn't have a uniform fetish. Well, you know,
I don't know if you call it a
isn't
fetish.
fetish. It is actually when you're in the military, they break you down and build you back up to create someone who is a team player, who is dedicated, who will have the back of every soldier in their team, in their group. This is what they do.
Make when you're in the military or unlike any other relationship.
Every single person that comes out of the military has this sense of duty, this honor, this ambiance. And when they put the uniform on, this is what they represent. Of course, it's real. It isn't a fetish. It is a real thing.
Yeah.
And
and that's why we love shows like Where the Heart Goes, whatever the name of that show.
When Calls the Heart.
When Calls the Heart.
I'm sorry,
stuff
but
like,
from the beginning.
Why we read romance novels, because now that's my weakness is romance.
I have always had
not the soft porn ones, but
I like to read these historical romance novels of the Regency, Victorian England. And
that's my favorite. That or maybe a little earlier in time, but because
I like it when there were genteel ladies and men were gentlemen, and I like all that. Yes.
So Claire wants to know what's on the menu tonight. We haven't even gotten to the menu yet, honey. Just we're just saying hello and greeting everybody.
We have not. We have not.
We're talking about our fetishes tonight. What does that look like?
It isn't a fetish. Hey, Sally, you started that.
And Sally says the only thing she liked was her boots.
Okay, I can understand.
I
You
can,
know
I
what?
can,
Yeah, those were
but
some
I
nice
tell you
looking
what,
boots.
my
Yeah.
son's Navy boots that he had to wear, his work boots,
Yeah.
those were steel-toed boots.
Oh yeah.
Try walking around in those things all damn day long. Try marching with those on. It's like, oh man, talk about wear your butt out in a hurry. That's why most of them get in such good shape, because they're marching all the time. They're doing
Yeah.
stuff. They're wearing those big old heavy packs and whatnot. It's like, yeah, no, I almost joined the military a couple of times, and both times I backed out at the last minute. It was like,
Oh, they would
I
have
don't
thrown
think
me
so.
out of boot camp. I couldn't. I didn't exercise. I was the most out of shape
That's they don't
18-year-old
allow
that ever lived.
contact. Yeah, they don't allow any contact the first couple of weeks they're in boot. They cut you off completely.
Yeah.
That first phone call home that they allow, I'll never forget that first phone call I got from my son, and it's this little boy voice that was on the verge of just, you could hear the tears in his voice going, Mom, I think I made a mistake. And I knew in that moment I had two choices. I could baby him, or I could tell him, no, you got this. And that's what I did. I was like, you got this. What are you talking about? I said, you get through this, the rest of your life's a cakewalk. You know?
you can't let your
and he told me
children be weak and think that they can't handle it. You have to.
And he told me later, he said, that was exactly what I needed to hear you say. I needed you to say, no, I believe in you. You can do this. You can do anything. You know,
absolutely.
And,
that's what they need.
Totally.
And it's hard because the mommy in you is wanting to say, I'm going to come get you, baby. Don't worry.
No, you know what?
But that's the worst thing to do.
Let me tell you, audience, the mommy in all of you, that ended as your child became like 8, 9, 10 and went out into the world. Then you became the parent who helped them successfully integrate themselves into the world. And how do you do that? You let them fly. You just have their back and you let them fly. You don't take their lessons.
You got to let them make their mistakes and just let them know you're there for them when they fall.
And you say, you know, I know you can do it, just like Shari did. I know you can handle it, because no coddling is going to save you at a job. You're not cutting it and you're out there trying to do your best. You've got to have real skills to be out in the world. And to do that, you have to have real life experiences that help you. So,
absolutely. That can make or break you, you know.
Can make or break.
In some people it does break, especially those that go to war. It's like it's like they get put in a situation to the point that their mind literally just cannot take it anymore.
Somebody said, treat failure just like you do success. Feel the same way about it, because what do you do when you fail? You have a success. There'll always be successes and failures. Treat them all the same. Feel the same about them.
Yes, you now know how not to do something. You know you have one way of not doing something under your belt.
Exactly.
Good for you. Yeah, Dr. Ann says we have military sprinkled throughout my family line. My dad was in the Navy. That was in the former Yugoslavia, and it was, you know, everybody had to do their stint. It's because he was in the Navy, he was a Marine. It's one of the reasons that he called me Marina. And I remember my grandmother. My grandmother really having, and, you know, she talked about it forever, about, you know, the fact that he named me Marina because he was in the Marines. And had he been in the Army, would he have called me Tank? You know, that kind of stuff.
I know.
I was about a year old when an Italian singer came out with a song called Marina.
Oh,
from that point on, every second girl born was called Marina.
I bet it became popular.
It did become popular, and even So to this day, if you go to an Italian wedding, chances are very good
to have a Marina there.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
know Marjorie shared her son. Yeah, my son suffers with that
Yes.
too. And
Mhm.
adult ADHD. So it's
Yeah.
the two together can make you quite hyper sometimes.
Absolutely.
And but
Yeah.
the actual topic that we were going to talk about tonight before we delved off into this other tangent was, what do you do when an emergency hits you? Whether if it's your emergency, a family emergency, a friend emergency, a work emergency, what is your response go to?
Yeah.
You know, I myself, it's like when it's happening, it's like
Yeah.
everything kind of shuts down and it's just deal with it. Do you know, step one, step two, step three. And after it's all over, I fall apart and lose my crap. That's just me. And I'll go into more stuff later, but I wanted to give the other two lovely ladies here a chance to share some of their wisdom and thoughts of how they deal with things and how it helps or doesn't help. Or um, Val, you're up.
Okay. Well, I was telling the ladies backstage that it really depends if it's something in your family, who it's affecting. Is it your kids or is it your husband? Because you're going to feel emotionally different and respond differently accordingly. Don't ask me why, it just happens. But some of you may be like me when I was a young mother and my son was 2 and he fell and split his lip open just a little bit. I almost fainted from the sight of blood on my child. You would have
Yeah.
thought he was bleeding to death or something.
Yes.
Okay. And then recently, my husband passed out in the middle of the night on the way to the restroom. And it was because he adjusted some medication, but I didn't know it. I did know it could be that, but I wasn't sure. And so I had to logically get him to respond. I had to decide, am I going to have to have an ambulance? Am I going to be able to drive him to the hospital? And so I had to go through all these logical thought steps and get him to respond to me to see if he was conscious and could actually be lucid. And all of these things were step by step in my mind. I was not emotionally connected to what was happening. I just knew I had to go boom, 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 just like that. Well, I wouldn't have known that was how I would react. I had no idea. But this is how I did react. But if you wanted to prepare in advance, definitely learn CPR if you don't know it already. Have your hospital number ready, have an ambulance number ready to call in case you need to, and don't have to worry about it. You can just put emergency numbers in your phone and then list them all in the notes area. It's going to help you a lot when your mind can't wrap your head around everything. You can go there and just do what you have to do by dialing those numbers. Things happen and you just have no clue, but by preparing a little bit in advance, you can alleviate a lot of the stress of a situation if you know,
Yeah.
Where things are, what to do, what the steps are,
Yeah.
and know CPR. And refresh your mind every year with what you do. There's a lot of things on YouTube you can Google to say, yeah, show me again. Because, I've been certified, but it's been many years since I've done it. It's things like that can help you. It's okay. I've got this. It's all right. And if you do go to panic mode, I just want to say, just stop. Practice the deep breathing. Or box breathing. Inhale 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale 4 counts. and hold the exhale for 4 count. Repeat, the box.
Yeah.
Or you absolutely ground yourself by saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique to get you in the present moment. What can you see? What can you hear? What do you feel? Putting you the physical sensations of the now so you don't slip out of your body. Because when you do panic and slip out of your body, you can't logically think. So you're bringing yourself back in by touching sensory things and by breathing and grounding. And I don't know about this one, positive self-talk. Who has time to positives? You got this. They're telling you, say you got this to yourself. You got this. Who's doing that? I don't know. But just staying in the present moment, staying in that present moment. That is the main thing, right? These are the only things, they have a list of things, but these are the only things I would try because in a state of emergency, you're not going to sit down and visualize calmness.
No.
Come on, no. So, yeah, those are the things that I just wanted to pass on to everyone because, like we say, you never know how you're going to react. Yeah. But there are some things that can make it easier. And that's, I'll pass it on to Marina.
Yeah. I am, and we talked about this backstage. So, yeah, I am very good in an emergency. It's like my logical brain takes over and I know what needs to be done. And I'll be the one saying, okay, you do this, grab me over this, whatever. So I will absolutely take command of the situation. It's after. When everything is done, it's after that I fall apart. That I go through everything and it like, oh, I was very early 20s. I was working for an insurance company and our office was located in actually in an apartment building. The first 5 floors were offices and then the remaining were residential apartments. And I had going into work that day, I felt a little hesitant. I didn't know why. I didn't feel sick. I just realized now that I was feeling anxious. We had, because it was an apartment, and we had 2 offices or apartments that would have kind of been back to back with an opening between them. We had 2 balconies, and our balcony looked over onto the roof of the indoor swimming pool. So it was probably around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning when I decided, for whatever reason, I got up, I closed the curtains. And with my back to the windows, I started to do my filing. I never did filing that early in the morning. It was an end of the day thing. And as I was filing, I was just getting more and more anxious until I heard a thud. And once I heard the thud, it was like, okay, this is it. So I could hear screaming. And because the curtains were closed, we didn't see what happened, but we could hear somebody screaming. There was a woman in one of the apartments upstairs. She had accidentally double dosed her medication. And without realizing, she went to the balcony to get some fresh air to, try to get herself organized, and kind of leaned on the balcony and fell over.
Oh,
and she landed on top of the swimming pool roof. So I knew, okay, that's what happened. Somebody call 911. I went into the kitchen and I we had one of those, remember the old percolators that were really big, like in the office?
Yeah.
I set up a new percolator for coffee, thinking that when the police, when detective, whoever's come in, they could have coffee. I grabbed the other ladies that were in the two apartments and said, "Okay, come on, we're going downstairs. There's nothing to see. We don't need to see anything. They don't need us, right? We just have to let them in, let them do their thing, so on." I took them downstairs into the bar, which was just barely open, and ordered them a stiff drink each and said, "Stay here." I went upstairs. I let the people that needed to come in, I let them into the office. I said, "There's coffee on. I'll be downstairs if you need me." And then I went downstairs, took care of the ladies. It wasn't until the body was removed, everything was done, everyone had left. The bosses sent the girls home, that I went back into the office and just fell apart.
I bet you were shaking too. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't realize your adrenaline is assisting you. And all of a sudden, when the thing is over, you're like, what did I just
WTF happened?
What did I just go through?
Yeah, exactly. And it's happened more than once where I've been in an emergency, and that's the way that I will react. Is I got this, I got control. Tell people what to do, because they're all kind of like shocked and what. Yeah, it's afterwards. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's it. Well, and as most of you know, the reason why I came up with this topic is because I just went through this last weekend.
yes.
My son had a heart attack. I was on air with Helen, Irish Granny Tarot, and Denise Siegel. We were doing a post-debate show, and as a parent, when your child calls your name in a certain tone, you know in that split second, it's not just a kid calling you.
Right.
And I don't care how old they are. My son's 40. He's still my baby.
Yeah.
Always will be.
Yes.
But when you hear that, it just something snaps in your brain and you go into, oh, he's hurt. There's something wrong. And I got up and I went around the corner. He's in the doorway. He's clutching the doorway. He's bent over double, hand on his chest, saying, "I can't breathe. My arm is numb," and da 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 da. And I don't remember feeling anything, but just thinking, I got to get him to the hospital.
Yeah.
I ran back to the computer. I at Helen and Denise and said, "My son's sick. I got to go." Bye. And I unturned everything off.
Yeah.
Took off, got him into the car. Thank God the hospital's only 2 blocks away.
Thank goodness.
And I mean, I was burning rubber, squalling tires getting there. The teenagers would have been proud of me. I was making noise. And I go careening up to the emergency room doors. And I jumped out of the car and I ran inside to the security guard trying to stop me and say, "We have to wand you to come in." I'm like, "My son's having a heart attack. I need somebody to go get him out of the car right now." And he throws the wand down and grabs a chair and took off out the door.
Oh, good for him.
So I was like, well, that's pretty damn good for a security guard. I mean, he went into instant mode, like, screw the wand, let's get the chair. He had him in the chair and heading back to the hospital by the time I got back out to go repark the car. And he was like, "Go park over there. You'll be fine. Nobody will mess with your car." And I'm like, okay. And and from there, it was just like, I was there until 4:00 that morning with him. When I was literally falling asleep, falling out of the chair, falling asleep in his room because I wouldn't leave. And finally he was like, "Mom, go home and get some rest. There's nothing you can do at this point." But I knew that once I got home, that's when I was going to fall apart. And that's what happened. When I got home, that's when the shakes hit. And that's when your brain starts thinking, what if this could have happened, that could have happened. Your brain automatically starts thinking of all the worst things in the world that could go wrong. And that's scary. And that's just, it's like, that's been on my mind all week, of course. When my late husband died, he died at home. He had been very, very, very ill for a long time. And he had gone to bed, and I went back to go check on him, and he wasn't breathing anymore.
Mhm.
And I went into pure panic mode at that moment, and I didn't know what to do. Now, up until about a year before, I had been working in the medical field. Every year I went through CPR training. I couldn't remember the first thing to do.
No, no.
Brain went
Oh,
blank. I just grabbed the phone, I called 911, and they asked me, "Can you do CPR?" And I said, "Well, I was certified, but I don't remember what to do." He's like, "Okay." And he started talking me through it. And as he's talking me through it, it's coming back to me then. And then I was able to kind of function. But again, it was in the back of our minds. We knew his time was short, and we were both kind of preparing for it. I just didn't expect it like that. I figured he'd be in the hospital or something where there were professionals.
Yeah, and I said backstage, you can never prepare. I don't even know. It's never going to have worked. No.
It's I mean, and like with any case, when there's an unattended death in the home, you have to wait for a homicide detective to come and clear that there was no foul play involved, and so you're going through all of those emotions on top of the fact that your husband just
I didn't
died.
even know that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, they cannot remove the body until a homicide. The coroner's office can't even take the body until a homicide detective shows up on scene and does a mini investigation to find out who was there, what happened, what were all the steps taken. And
wouldn't
and then
it be smarter for the mortician or
the coroner's office?
The coroner's office to see that there's no foul play in this person, and then after they can do a more exploratory exam if they want to.
You would think,
I don't understand why that can't just be the way to go, because that's traumatic. You're going to send
and it was funny because, and I don't remember this, my mother told me I did this, but when the homicide detective had me come sit down in the living room to talk to me after he talked to everybody else.
Yeah.
And she said that he started out saying, I'm just because I'm a homicide detective doesn't mean I'm accusing you of anything. It's just part of, state law. We have to da 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 da. And my mother said, I just looked at him and said, "Well, yeah, I know. I read murder mysteries all the time." Yeah. I was like, who says that to a homicide detective? I mean, but that's what my brain plucked out of the memory and tossed in his face. And he just laughed. He thought it was funny because, I mean, he could tell that I was pretty much in shock, But
I think you could probably tell that your husband passed naturally.
Well, that too. I mean,
it's a routine stop for him, and he's just laughing at you off the cuff. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm a home expert because I read the home detective story. You probably gave him
exactly. It's like, I mean, and I can laugh about it now.
What goes on?
When my mother told me that I said that, like several weeks later, my mother told me that that's what happened. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that to the homicide detective. And she was like, he was just laughing. He thought it was funny. And she said, and I just backed you up and said, yeah, she does read a lot of murder mysteries.
Yeah.
I said, depending on what the person was like, they could have took that completely the wrong way.
Well, sure.
Like,
if they were suspicious.
She knows how to hide things, so.
You to plan her next murder.
Yeah, that was before the days of Google.
The Widowmaker.
When you had to get all that information from a book.
Yeah.
That's when you had to get it from a
These
book.
are these things that have these hard ends made out of cardboard with paper inside. They're called a book. And you read stories in them. It's something amazing from back in our day,
Exactly.
Most people don't know what a book is anymore, but I'm being a smart ass. But anyway, I think the first
Dr. Ann
time,
is right. Yeah, she says same thing goes for saying silly things while under the effects of anesthesia.
Oh,
oh
yeah.
God, yes. We're not even going to go there. I have said some stuff when I've been under. Yeah, we're not going to go there. I've had the doctors and the nurses come back and say, "Did you know that you said that, 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 that?" And I'm like, "Oh my God," is just total, just want to go through the floor, yeah, kind of thing.
You know, I'm sure
Um,
they're used to everything under the sun.
oh yeah, oh
You know,
yeah. You
somebody
hear it all. When,
proposing to people, or who knows, whatever.
know,
my mother,
Yeah,
my
I
mother,
remember when
a couple
when
of
my
hours after brain surgery, and the neurosurgeon comes in to tell me what happened and what they did, and she's like, "Are you married?"
Yeah,
And he
exactly.
was like 20 years my
It didn't
junior,
matter.
right?
She would,
She was like, "No, ma'am, I'm not." And she says, "My daughter's not married either." I'm like, "Mom, I'm sure he doesn't want to date somebody 20 years older than him. Let's drop it." And he's just laughing. He's like, "I get that
I
a lot."
heard it all.
He
Believe
was
me.
really good looking,
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
when my
So at least
when my
even
sister was having her her wisdom teeth removed, the and I dropped her off and I went to go pick her up. So yeah, she was really on heavily medicated when I went to go get her. And um, talking to the nurse, and she's telling me what to look out for, and stay with her, do this, do that. And the nurse said, "Oh, by the way, I asked your sister if she spoke Croatian, and she said no." And I said, "Yeah, no, she doesn't. She doesn't. She was born here in Canada." She said, "Oh, sweetheart, under anesthetic, she swore in Croatian."
Oh,
Yeah, she was Croatian herself, and she said, "Oh, she does."
she knew the right
Yes.
words.
look at that.
Yeah.
And
Holy,
that would all be stuff that you hear as a child that you don't really take in
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
short-term memory. I mean,
Yes.
you
I'm
don't
sure
know,
Oh,
I
she
was
you
knew.
don't know, you don't, that you know something. You don't realize it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if I was heavily sedated and somebody asked me if I knew Cajun French, I'd be like, "No, I don't remember it," and then I'd turn around and speak it
Yeah.
fluently because I grew
Yes.
up around it.
Exactly.
But yeah, and then Val talking about the first time she saw her child with a split lip.
Yeah.
And that triggered a memory in me when my son was about 10 months old.
Mm-hmm.
We lived in this little wood frame house and it had the big wrought iron doors um, on the outside of the wooden doors because it was a bad neighborhood. But it was like scroll work all the way up this barred door.
Yeah.
And so he's on a pallet on the floor in the living room, cartoons are on, and I get up and go to the bathroom. I come back a couple of minutes later and he's nowhere in sight. And I'm like, where did he go? And I hear this squeal and I look up and he's at the top of the door. He managed to get across the room and all the way to the top of the door with blood pouring out of his mouth, where he had at some point had busted his lip in the process of crawling up. I had to get a step stool to get him down. It was above my head. I couldn't even reach him. And I just remember it was more the panic of the blood coming out of his mouth than it was
Yes.
him up at the top of the door frame with me going, "Oh my God, how did you get up?" Like he's going to answer me, right?
Yeah.
He was 10 months old. But that just, I had forgotten all about that until Val brought that up. And it was
Oh
like,
my gosh. It
oh,
just,
I remember that.
I got so weak in the knees, I almost fainted.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was like I was vowing in that moment, I'll never go to the bathroom again when there's nobody else here to watch you.
Yeah.
Stupid things you say to yourself.
You
Or
tie
when
a
myself
bell
was,
around them. So, yeah, listen
Yeah.
to the bell.
when I was 5, we had a homemade swing set in the backyard that my grandfather had built out of concrete pipe, and it had a slide that just like sat next to it. So the slide was real shaky. And 2 of my cousins that would come over all the time, one was right at my age, one was a little younger.
Hmm.
The one that was my age was like severely autistic, like more so than the Rain Man from the movie.
Oh wow.
That's how bad he was. And for whatever reason, it was my turn on the slide, and I was up at the top getting ready to slide down, and he wanted me to hurry. And so he shook the sliding board and I fell off, and my head, and I still have a scar up here. My head hit the concrete post and cracked open. And I remember my uncle was at the house because he had come over to drop them off. My grandmother was going to watch them. And he was still there because my grandmother couldn't drive. So I don't know what would have happened if he had already left. She'd have been there with nobody to drive her to the hospital. And he freaked out. My grandmother freaked out because I come into the house and my hands like this and there's blood pouring down my face. And
You've been in a
I remember
UFC
my
fight.
grandmother grabbed a dish towel.
It's
those
always the
old-
dish towel, folks.
Those
The
old with
grandmothers
the
always
fringe,
grab the dish
with the fringe on the ends, right?
The fringe is on
throws
the
this-
end.
She slaps this dish towel on my head with the fringes hanging down in my eyes. My uncle picks me up and puts me in the front seat of the car. He's in the car with my head in his lap. And he's trying to drive, shift, because it was a 3-speed on the column, and hold the rag to my head at the same time to take me, not to the hospital. That was back in the 60s now. We were going to my doctor's office
Oh,
because that's where you went. You
oh,
went to the doctor.
oh.
And so he's trying to drive, shift, and hold the rag to my head. And I can remember the fringe in my eyes dripping blood, because it was just a head wound. It's going to bleed a lot. And I remember him driving like a bat out of hell because we were like squalling and, moving
Yeah.
back and forth across the seat. It was before seat belts too, by the way.
Yeah.
So we weren't strapped in. And he pulled into the parking lot. I remember the sensation of coming to a stop. And
Mhm.
before he could turn the car off, the passenger door opened, and it was my grandfather. My grandmother had already called my mom and my grandfather. And my grandfather beat my uncle there, and he was coming from twice as far away as the
gosh.
house. And he beat them there to start pulling me out of the car. And he's in a panic trying to pull me out and pick me up. And I remember opening my eyes because they finally moved the damn washcloth out of my face, the dish rag. And as my grandfather's picking me up to take me inside, a taxi cab pulls in behind him. And my mother jumps out in her cocktail waitress outfit, which was very risque for the middle of the afternoon, I would say, especially in public. It's for the bar where she worked. And, in these stiletto heels, and she's running breakneck speed to get to me. And I can remember thinking, how is she running in those shoes? Because that's all I could think about was, how is she running in those shoes?
Yep.
And the doctor stitched me up, sent me home. No big deal, but
Did you ever
could
lose
use this.
consciousness?
No,
Oh,
not that I'm aware of, and nobody ever said that I did.
well, I had an incident where I was like 4. I don't know. I was riding a bike and my sister's tire hit the back of my tire, and I flipped. I came down right on my chin.
Oh.
The dish towel. Somebody ran into their house and got a dish towel.
Of course.
The dish towel, stuck it up onto this. I lost consciousness. I was out.
Wow.
But so, it's just one of those things where we went to the hospital, and I don't know why we didn't go to a doctor's office. We went to a hospital.
I don't know why we went to the doctor's office either, but that's where they took me. So,
You know what's really funny?
I can't
is-
tell the whole story because it's going to be in my book.
Ha-ha.
aha, we got a book coming.
There's a book coming. Yeah, I hope
Oh
to
my
have
goodness.
it published.
Or when I
early.
got hurt, when I was injured, I was on the phone with my husband, and the mess started happening in my office because it was two coworkers got in a fight. And I was like, let me go. I'll call you back. And then I never called back. And so he finally called me back, and one of the EMTs answered the phone. And he's like, who the hell are you, and why are you answering my wife's phone? Because it was my desk phone on my office phone on my desk. And the guy says, I'm with such and such ambulance, and I'm taking her to the hospital now. And my husband was like, what hospital? And he told him. He said, okay, I'll meet you there. And he hung up. And so the guy was like, okay, your husband is going to meet us there. And I'm like, okay. He had to go get our son out of school twice as far away to get to the hospital where the ambulance took me. He beat them there. They were there waiting on me. We pulled in the ambulance because they had me strapped to a backboard and the neck brace and the whole bit.
Yeah. Wow.
I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel anything. I
my
thought
gosh,
my back
that
had
was
been broke.
terrible. Oh, geez.
And but yeah, I mean, it's like, it's when it's me, I kind of look at things esoterically, I guess, like, oh wow, I wonder how they did that, or how's she running in those shoes, or how'd you get here so fast, that kind of thing. And when it's somebody else and I'm reacting to it in the moment, yeah, I'm do it. My husband was the only time that I didn't react that way. And then after the fact, yeah, it's sit down and cry and get the shakes and go, oh my God, what if, what if,
the
what if?
adrenaline wears off, and then you're like a mess.
Well, and then your brain starts pulling in all of the what ifs of what could have happened. And instead of you saying,
I don't do the what ifs, but I just am shaking at a leaf. Oh my God, I handled that. I don't even know how I did it. That's what I'd be saying to myself. And I'd be just shaken from all of it.
Here's a little something. Do you know why that they would grab dish towels instead of towels?
Yeah.
Because back in the day, dish towels were generally cotton. They would absorb more. And they weren't as expensive as towels. And most towels were white. So you want to put it would have been much more difficult, to get the blood and everything out of it. So, and dish towels, they're, at that time, a dime a dozen, right? You do it, you clean it up, you throw it away. You don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Even back then, man, they looked after things.
They did.
Oh yeah, they kept it all in stride. It's amazing when you think about it. When I go back and remember things, it's like, my grandmother always seemed to have her shit together. Even though she wasn't drunk, she still seemed to have it all together.
Yeah.
Just did what needed to be done,
You did what you needed to get done.
Right. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Complain. They just did it.
Well, they would complain, but usually after the fact.
I never complained later. I never heard
mine did. My grandmother complained about everything.
Oh, my grandmother never complained, not one time.
But she was a miserable, miserable woman, and that's a whole total different story. So,
both my grandmothers
we can cover on the next show.
We can talk about that some other time. This will be, let's probe into Shari's brain and why she's so screwed up. Well, guys, it's been an hour and 4 minutes. We went a little bit over. Thank y'all for coming and putting up with our silliness. Just trying to make light of what happens when all hell breaks loose, and how to kind of prepare yourself a little bit. Val had some great, suggestions there. Make sure you have a list in your phone, emergency contacts. I know I've got them in my phone. Make sure that your family knows who to call if something happens to you and you're unresponsive, that they have the right numbers to call, that kind of thing. So mainly just be there to take care of each other,
Absolutely.
And if all you can do is make sure there's coffee made for the firemen and the EMTs when they come in, that's something they probably didn't expect to get and probably really appreciated, So,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And you
Mhm.
maybe don't want to tell a homicide detective that you're an avid reader of murder mysteries when he's there investigating a death, So
Yeah.
you may not
I
get
like
one that kind of
Oversharing.
understood like the one I dealt with did. So, it might get you looked at a little bit stronger. And
Oh,
so y'all have a great night.
Yeah.
Have a good week. Have a
yes.
great holiday weekend for those
Yes.
in the United States. Independence Day is tomorrow. If the
And when's
Supreme
the
Court doesn't
stampede?
completely
When's the
do away
Calgary?
with it. And
The Stampede starts on
is
Friday.
Oh,
On
the
Friday.
day
So
after Independence Day. So yay.
that'll be fun.
I've
I'll
got a
be
4-day
celebrating
weekend,
tomorrow.
so I'm a happy camper. And
We'll
I don't go back
see,
to work till Monday.
I'll see you guys on Messages for Lightworkers.
Absolutely.
There you
Take care,
go.
all. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Let's see if I can get this silly thing to close. There we go. Okay.